Well, several years ago, back in 2016, I came to the realization that I could not show Saturday Sabbath from the scripture. And it really bothered me being a lay pastor in the system and assistant to the pastor and working in the church house system. And it really disturbed me. I kept on searching the scripture, and I just realized that I don't know exactly how to put it, but I had been duped, and realized that Saturday could not be shown from the scripture.
Yep.
And then I came to the realization upon further research that the Saturday Sunday controversy was crafted by the Jesuits as a distraction to get people to choose one side or the other. And if you choose Sunday, you're in the Gregorian system. If you choose Saturday, you're in the Gregorian system. Either way, they got you. Okay. And so, the facts are, okay, that, the scripture, as defined by scripture, Babylon, okay, the scripture calls a system Babylon, that I believe that the church house systems are part of that system, changed not just a day, but they changed the calendar. And they changed it fundamentally. They got people to embrace the pagan Julian timekeeping system, and basically threw under the rug the fathers set apart Sabbaths and feast days according to the moon and the sun. So, so this was really shocking to me. It really threw me for a loop. And for a while, I was trying to straddle both sides of the fence. I actually conceded at one point. I says, well, at least the SDAs are moving in the right direction. They're embracing the seventh day, because the scripture clearly says the seventh day is the Sabbath. So I was trying to, keep the peace and, keep the peace. I was trying to do both. Okay. Because I could clearly see that something that Yahuah had preserved something very special in his word. And, as a child, growing up in upstate New York, we didn't have light pollution. Okay. So we could look up in the heavens at night on a clear night, and you just see the starry heavens. You could see the moon. Everything was just so beautiful. Like, Psalm 19 said, the heavens declare the glory of Yahuah, and the firmament shows his handiwork. So, so I realized also that, as the scripture says, that, he ordained the sun and the moon for keeping track of, that is, counting days, years, and his appointed times. So this is foundational, super important. That passage in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, it says he ordained the moon, or rather he ordained these lights for keeping track, for accounting, okay, for days, years, and appointed times. So that clearly means any reference to a given day must require the use of the sun and the moon. Any reference, whatever the day is, whether it's an appointed day or whether it's just a regular work day, whether it is, whatever the day is, it requires the use of the sun and moon. So that was something that, fundamentally was missing from the church house system. So, Genesis 2:3, where it, he brings out that Yahuah Elohim blessed the seventh day and set it apart. It echoes Genesis 1:14, where he says he ordained these great lights for days and years and appointed times. Psalm 104:19 does the same thing. It says he made the moon for appointed times. So it's saying that this physical light of the moon, all right, and that word moon in Psalm 104:19 is not new moon, but it is the physical, the Hebrew word uh, yarak, which means it's the physical light of the moon. Okay, and that also echoes Genesis 1:14. Okay, so it's connecting. It's everything is connecting. Yahusha said so, eloquently when approached by Satan. He quoted Deuteronomy chapter 8 and says, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word." And the mistake that so many people make is they try to establish doctrine without bringing every word of Yahuah to bear on that point. Then they make another mistake where they will try to bring scripture together, but then they throw out that which doesn't agree. And that's not appropriate. Every word counts. Every word. So, Exodus 28, remember the Sabbath day. Again, echoes that we must be using the moon, okay, and the sun for accounting that Sabbath day. So we see that all the appointed times and set apart gatherings of Yahuah can be found in a couple passages. Leviticus chapter 23, Psalm 81, 1 through 4. If you study those passages, you'll see that all of his set apart gatherings, the new moon and all the set festivals, feast days, yearly feasts, as well as the seventh-day Sabbath, are established in those passages. Of course, there are others, but those establish them. I have a video in most of our most recent uploads on our YouTube channel. You can find that there's a video that talks about the calendar and this anomaly that back in 2011, I believe it was, that Samoa found themselves in, where the government had nixed, I think, a Thursday or whatever it was. Okay, so they could be on track with all the other people in their region. And essentially that threw the SDA establishment for a loop, because now the seventh day was because they were still following the Roman calendar. The Roman Gregorian calendar was now on Sunday. Okay, if they were sticking to it. And so the church became split, and there's some people keeping Saturday, some people keeping Sunday. And in that video, there's an evangelical minister who just categorically, a very prominent one, at least he has been, very prominent one, who clearly and flat out said, listen, he said, you see this? Okay, this Bible, okay, this is a Bible, okay, doesn't go along with our calendar. He says, in the assembly with all the very large audience, he says, our calendar is pagan. He says it straight out. Our calendar is pagan. It's derived pagan. He says, Monday, Sunday, those are all deities. Okay, these are all pagan gods. Okay, he says, they used a different calendar. Speaking of the scripture, they used the moon. They used a different calendar. So anyway, so that just confirmed my understanding that, hey, this is really, Yahuah, the scripture does not in any way, shape, or form, Monday through Sunday, January through December, does not in any way register with scripture. Old Testament or New Testament scripture doesn't register. Those days, those time frames do not register at all. So what is in the scripture? And that's what I discovered, that it's right there. He gave his ordinances in the sun and the moon for us to track time.